I've spent a confusing amount of time waiting for the perfect moment to begin things that mattered to me, and it took me a long time to understand that the moment I was waiting for didn't actually exist. I kept imagining some future version of myself who woke up one day with total clarity, overflowing motivation, and this strange sense of certainty that now, finally, was the time to start. But whenever I looked back at the things I had actually managed to begin in my life, none of them started that way. They all began on ordinary days when I was tired or distracted or unsure. And the only real difference was that on those days I got fed up with my own thinking and moved before my hesitation caught up to me. What makes beginning so difficult isn't the task itself, but the amount of imagination we pour into what could go wrong. The mind is incredibly skilled at creating detailed previews of failure. It shows you the embarrassing version of the attempt, the unfinished version, the version where you realize halfway through that you're not as capable as you hoped. And because these images feel so vivid, we treat them like predictions rather than possibilities. So instead of moving, we wait. We wait for the fear to shrink on its own, forgetting that fear doesn't shrink with time. It expands to fill the space you give it. Trying anyway is uncomfortable because it forces you to admit that clarity is not a prerequisite for action. We grow up believing that we're supposed to understand the entire path before taking the first step. But most paths only become visible while you're already walking them. You don't learn what kind of work you want to create by thinking about it endlessly. You learn by trying, failing, adjusting, trying again, and slowly discovering the version of the work that feels honest to you. And that discovery simply cannot happen in your head, no matter how much time you spend preparing. What helps is noticing how often progress comes disguised as imperfection. The first attempt is rarely remarkable, yet it's the attempt that opens every door after it. You can't edit a sentence that hasn't been written. You can't improve a skill that's only been studied. You can't fix a mistake you never allowed yourself to make. The beginning has to be clumsy because it's the only point in the process where your ideas are still unfamiliar to you. With time, repetition, and a bit of humility, those same ideas start taking shape in ways you couldn't have predicted earlier. It's tempting to believe that other people don't feel this same tension, that the people who achieve things must have started with more confidence or more talent or more certainty. But if you listen closely to their stories, a pattern appears. They didn't feel ready either. They weren't waiting for a sign. They simply reached a moment where staying still felt heavier than risking a small, imperfect start. They began with the same shaking hands, the same doubts, the same fear of looking foolish. The only difference is that they kept going long enough for their early attempts to evolve into something meaningful. The part that often gets ignored is how liberating the first step becomes once you take it. The task stops being a giant, abstract concept and turns into something specific you can actually work with. The fear loses some of its sharpness. The pressure softens. You start adjusting instead of overthinking. And without even noticing it, you realize you're no longer trying to be ready. You're learning in real time, which is the only way anyone learns anything. If you're standing at the edge of something you want to begin, maybe the question isn't whether you're ready. Maybe the better question is how long you're willing to wait for a feeling that has never shown up in the way you expect. Because at some point, you have to decide whether your life is shaped by the things you start or the things you postpone.